Hi everyone, so welcome to our first session of real content in U.S. history. I'm going to walk you through Unit 1, Session 1. I say this is a session of real content, but actually this session is reviewing some of the things that you learned in past history courses. So you would have learned these in your 8th grade U.S. history course. Remember, you wrapped up around 1900, and so we're going to just review some of the quick ideas that you covered at the end of that year so that you really have a good grounding as we jump into what's happening in 1900 in America. So we're going to look at America at the turn of the century. A heads up, this is a shortened session, and that's because you should start at midweek of the very first week that we're back after you complete your orientation, and it's due the Monday after that. So it's more like a 3-day session than a full week session. Here's your overview. Don't forget that you do need to make a phone appointment with me by September 10th. It's just a quick introduction phone call. Your suggested schedules on that page as well. I wanted to point out the Unit 1 overview page. I'm filling you in on some of the main content standards that we're going to be learning in this particular unit. All right, so it highlights some of the main ideas about progressivism that we're going to learn and some of the skills that we're going to practice. So reading in history, writing in history, citing evidence, arguments, making good discussion, connections to today, as well as some of those nitty-gritty history concepts. So this is where you'll find the standards. But I gave you a hint here. Every one of our assignments, excuse me, will be aligned to one of these standards, one or more of them. So in the case of a quiz, you might have questions on several different standards. And then you'll be able to see how you're doing on these standards by clicking on the Mastery tool. It's going to give you and me a lot of information about where are your weaknesses and where do we need to focus additional time with these standards. Okay. So the Mastery tool won't really show you a whole lot initially, but once you've completed a few assignments, even at the end of this session, it'll have some information in there for you, which is really cool. It gives you something other than just your grades to see how you're doing and what you're understanding in class. Okay, so that is the standards. Then, as I said, we're basically doing a quick review of what America was like during the Gilded Age, which was the end of the 1800s. So you're going to watch a video from Crash Course and read some information about some of the main things that were happening during the Gilded Age. You're going to learn a lot about urbanization, the movement of American society from rural areas into cities, moving a lot of people into cities all at once, and what were the impacts of that kind of movement and what made that happen. You're going to look at immigration and some of the trends in immigration in this time. And then you're going to take a quiz, although your quiz will look more like... There we go, look more like that. So the quiz will test your understanding of the previous pages, so be sure you're taking notes on those, because every single quiz you can use your notes, but they are timed, and so you have to make sure that you won't have time to look up everything. You want to make sure you understand everything before you start the quiz, but if you get stuck on something, you can always look it up in your notes. Okay, so you're going to start, this quiz has a 15-minute time limit, and you can take it again. So if you don't do well the first time, you can take it again, and you'll get the average of your 3 scores. In fact, you can take it up to 3 times. Once you have that completed, you're going to participate in a discussion, and in this discussion you're going to think about what potential problems might occur based on the changes in American society that took place at the turn of the century. So you have this summary up here of the major changes that were going on, and I want you to start thinking about, okay, so what kinds of problems would those changes create? There's some questions down here to think about. What strains are put on cities when there's a large population increase? What potential problems might occur when big businesses have a lot of power? What might happen to workers? What might the political responses be to that? Those are the types of things that we're going to be talking about as we jump into the progressives later in this session or unit. All right, so that takes us through our first session. In the next session, we'll actually jump into some of those progressives, find out what are some of the reforms that they put in place to deal with all of these changes, growth in cities, growth in immigration, et cetera, et cetera. All right, that brings us to the end of the session. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'm here to help. Thanks.